After we're done with the go ahead and read it. Pronunciate. Okay, Joe? Okay.
The regular public meeting of the Township of Whitehall Board of Commissioners will come to order. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll have a moment of silence for our troops serving home and abroad, and we'll have a moment of silence for James Carpenter, as a board member on our Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority, who passed away last night. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Whitehall Township has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing and to review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful actions that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protected characteristics. The township, in its land use decisions, does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. Approval of the minutes. A motion to approve the minutes from the regular public meeting on December 11th, 2017.
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You got that? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, poll the board.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
And Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
And President Howard?
Yes.
Passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
I have a motion to approve the reorganization meeting minutes of January 2nd, 2018.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt? I'm sorry, Clary? Aye. Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
We have no courtesy of the floor?
No, it's on the office, unless that was canceled.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's off.
It is up?
It's off.
Okay. You have to sort of see.
It's off the board.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Cool.
Good.
No courtesy of the floor?
None. That's fine.
Then we'll move on to resolutions. Resolution number 2998. A resolution reappointing Roger Reichert as an alternate to the Whitehall Township Zoning Hearing Board. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have any questions from the board? Questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 2999, a resolution reappointing Lee Chrisman to serve on the Whitehall Township Zoning Hearing Board. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary? Aye. Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
And President Howard?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the reappointment of Ann Fryman to serve on the Planning Commission, term expiring December 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the reappointment of James Molinaro to serve on the Planning Commission, term expiring December 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the reappointment of John Costick Jr. to serve on the Civil Service Commission, term expiring December 31st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the reappointment of Kevin Sorensis to serve on the Tax Appeals Board, term expiring December 31st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the reappointment of Rhonda Bastian to serve on the Whitehall Township Industrial Commercial Development Authority, term expiring December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to approve the appointment of Jason Shefchak to serve on the Whitehall Township Authority, term expiring December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Clary?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
We need to read.
Resolution number 3000.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Is that it?
I think we're past the resolution stage. I think you ought to move that to the end of the agenda.
The end of, after the reports?
After the reports?
After the other motions, yeah.
They're all done.
We're done.
Yeah, I was
All the
last.
other motions. You can-
You can do it after the reports, yeah. Do it as a motion.
That's a resolution. This is a resolution.
Yeah.
We just need a reading, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm understanding that. It's just that it's outside of the sequence.
Well, this was added, Mr. Gross produced this in the 11th hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be proper to do it again, don't you?
We have one.
So you want to wait till the end
Yeah.
before we adjourn?
Yeah.
I want to wait till the end.
Okay.
All right, we'll do the Board of Commissioners reports. Mr. Marks?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Duck?
Yes, we have a meeting, a town hall meeting for the Thomas Iron Works Historic Preservation Neighborhood on January 17th at the Union Hall located on Lehigh Street at 6:30 p.m. We'll be discussing with the neighborhood about plans, ideas, things like that. Also, within the next week or two, there should be a survey going out to all the owners of those homes, businesses, schools, everything that's in that neighborhood, to do a survey on whether they'd like to have a historical preservation neighborhood there. So that will be coming to the homes within the next week or two. So that's all I have.
What time? 6:30?
6:30 on the 17th. Mhm.
Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Linder?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Swaniker?
Nothing right now.
Sorry.
No report, thank you.
All I want to say is just congratulations to our volunteers who have been reappointed to their boards. We appreciate their service. Move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you. I just want to keep it brief because of the weather, but as you all are aware, I have accepted the invitation of our former board president and now our county executive, Phillips Armstrong, to become the Director of Administration for Lehigh County. I have not approved yet. It go before the Lehigh County Board of Commissioners on Wednesday evening, and we've already begun the transition, at least in the office, to get ready for when I will depart, which will probably be in late February, for our next incoming mayor. I do have to say that we will follow, the Board of Commissioners will clearly follow the Home Rule Charter in the steps that are spelled out clearly for interviewing, advertising, interviewing, and the replacement of the mayor. So I look forward to this transition, and it will be by far a different transition than those of the 6 predecessors that held this office. It will be more interactive, and that next person will be up to speed very quickly, taking over the role. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. There's no treasurer's report tonight, so we'll go back to resolution number 3000, resolution authorizing the Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority to proceed with the Summit Street Sewer Project. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
This is just a reading on
This
I
is
think we just have to read it twice, correct?
Okay.
No.
Now, an ordinance is read twice.
Well, no, that's just it, I didn't know here.
Just the caption.
Just the
Oh,
caption.
sorry.
Reading the caption is enough. You don't have to read it twice.
Thank you.
Can we comment?
Pardon?
Can we comment with questions at this point?
After you move.
Yeah, I need a motion.
Okay, so you were, he's right.
Sean.
He had, okay, you moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah. Something this size, isn't this normally done by ordinance?
Evidently, the grant that's available requires a resolution to be read and authorizing the sewer authority to apply for it. If awarded, then we have to do I guess before that we have to do front foot assessment. That would be an ordinance, but.
But this talks about them going ahead with the project.
Well, my understanding is for this block, for this grant money, we needed to have a resolution giving us permission to move forward to apply for the grant.
And that's what this resolution
That's what this is.
says.
That's all this is.
Not move forward with the project. Because number one, we've had no public comment. And number two, I don't even know if the residents have been informed of any of this.
Well, it is customary, though, as Commissioner Marks said, you need to have the resolution attached to the grant request. And there's no guarantee that the Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority will receive the grant.
Yeah.
And they view it, you know, And correct me, Joe, the Commonwealth Financing Authority is the holder of the grant, or
DCED.
DCED.
all right.
and-
Well, it's an offshoot of DCED.
But the way I read
I agree, and
if this grant wasn't awarded, the sewer authority is still being charged by this Board of Commissioners to sewer Summit Street.
Well, we still intend on sewering Summer Street.
But we've had no public comment. I don't even know if the residents have been informed of this up there. And to me, I don't know how you tell the sewer authority to go ahead and do it when we haven't had public comment on it.
Chuck, I view it as the next step would be
I may be wrong, but it's-
two ordinances after this. This is not the end all. Lee?
My understanding, we talked to Dave today. My understanding is that all they need at this point is the resolution of the board, more or less endorsing the sewer authority pursuing the grant funds to provide public sanitary sewer service to Summit Street. And, you know, the board has asked the sewer authority to investigate that and do a feasibility study, which I believe they have
Yeah,
done.
we have.
And maybe the resolution can be modified slightly to say that, so that it's comfortable for everybody. But Commissioner Marks, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what the gist of it is, right? at this
Yeah,
point?
we had another, Mr. Gross had written another resolution, but we actually changed the wording because Mr. Schreiner had discussed this with him. He was concerned because
Do
it
you have
had
the most current version?
other resolutions.
Yes.
They do.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
But the last version that Mr. Gross produced talked about the grant money, and because Whitehall Township isn't applying for the grant money, it wasn't pertinent to this resolution.
Yeah, it kind of looked like, Dave was not comfortable with it either.
Right.
It kind of looked like we were applying for it, which we're not.
Right.
So maybe we can massage it a little bit, but the gist of it is for the Board of Commissioners to endorse the sewer authority applying for this grant. And I think they need that, just like we did whenever we used to apply for CDBG, when we used to do that with, any grant. They want to see evidence that you as a board are supportive of the project.
But time is of the essence here because the application deadline is February 26th, and because of the way the board's convened and meet, we're going to have to even hold a special meeting to get this moved forward.
And you're correct, Phil, that, we're not even there, like, once the feasibility study, is complete, there has to be ordinances, the property owners will be notified, you would have to approve of the front foot assessment if there is one. I don't even believe that that's all wrapped up at this point. There was a feasibility study, but it hasn't been broken down, to those types of specifics at this point.
And I understand that, I understand the timeline the sewer authority's on, but this sentence in here, that the sewer authority is hereby authorized to proceed with the Summit Street Sewer Project. When I read that, it's like, we're telling them go.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean we're obligated to do it.
Yeah, but when you see something like this written, and let's say that grant doesn't happen,
Well, we're still not obligated to do the project.
How about in that,
The wording's gotta change,
changing that
though.
sentence to read, the Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority is hereby authorized to proceed to submit to DCED grant funding for the Summit Street proposed sewer project.
that I'll go with.
But my understanding is that that isn't enough because this has to do with the 537, correct?
Well, actually, that's a area of service, right? That was shown
It was
as an area of
proposed to be
service.
served on the
Yeah, so I don't-
current 537.
I don't think that it's a problem, to be honest with you,
Okay.
because it is a service, it is an area that was supposed to be served.
Mhm.
We just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna change anything.
And this is specifically for that grant proposal, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we should expand, well, is the Summit Street Sewer Project, does that encompass all
We
of,
should say
Prospect
yes,
and
Prospect?
Yeah, we should say
Yes.
Summit and Prospect.
So you wanna, I didn't write that down.
But now, how can we expedite this if this reading doesn't count tonight? How can we move
No, a
forward?
resolution only needs this.
Don't even go in hearing.
And from, if you massage it into language that everybody's comfortable with, am I correct, Chuck? You can still vote on it. Resolution is not as impactful as a ordinance.
Yeah, I don't wish to hold it up, it's just I read that sentence and, to me, it's something that can come back and bite.
I agree.
Yeah, but is this a requirement of the grant process that it's?
You have
It's gotta be a
to,
grant,
We gotta-
that's.
every time
I
we
mean-
DCNR and everyone else, you have to have a resolution attached to prohibit a township manager, borough manager, or a rogue mayor from submitting grant requests without support.
And just for public knowledge, we qualify for up to two $500,000 grants, $1 million total. The anticipated cost came in with right now we're looking at $1.3 million, but there's a 25% contingency built into that because of the geology of the area. And it could come in lower, so this could be a major windfall for our ratepayers and our citizens in the township and the borough of Copley, so.
So I believe the mayor has.
Read it again.
Yeah.
That the Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority is hereby authorized to proceed with a submittal to DCED for grant funding for the Summit Street and Prospect, is it street or avenue?
Prospect Street.
Street. Sanitary sewer project.
And we might want to modify the title a little bit just to reflect that same paragraph.
Okay.
And the sentence above that should, of course, also be changed to Summit Street and Prospect.
Prospect. Okay.
Is that okay?
And the
Commissioner?
title.
If you feel it's adequate, if
Yeah,
everyone.
I think that's,
comfortable.
that's what Dave kind of translated to us today, that, you know,
Yeah.
this is the first step just to get in the door for the grant.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Now, should that not be good enough, you know, I think it's important that this goes, that you get your paperwork in, that if we have to redo this and have a special meeting,
I think
I
this.
think we're all right with this stuff, but if we do, we gotta do it and move this along for this grant funding. So that's huge if this is gonna happen, that would save the residents an awful lot.
And we do have a history, I mean, right now we're using a grant on Front Street in Copley, so we do have a history with this program, and we feel pretty confident that we may extract one out of this, and, you know, if
Anything's better than that.
anything's better than that.
Do I need to reaffirm the motions that with the
Yeah.
Yes, modify the motion.
change? So, Commissioner Cleary, you,
So I'll move to make changes.
okay. Joe,
I'll say.
any other comments or questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please pull the board.
Commissioner Clary? Aye. Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutt?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes,
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. President Howard.
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
That's not really fair. You should have had to go up there at least 5 times while you're filming.
Yeah.
I don't know.